Hello, good morning and welcome back to today's tutorial. Today I'll be talking about two things. I'll be summarizing the text tool and also the gradient tool. So I'll be very quick at this, so let's get right into it. I've been receiving countless requests lately about the text tool and also the gradient tool. I see last night some works that the text wasn't okay for me. They stretched it the way I don't like, and the gradient was too close than it should be. So today I decided to make a short and brief tutorial about that. I don't know if this is going to be short, but I'll try my best. Okay, so this is the gradient tool. Okay, this is the gradient tool, and if you watch here, it is too close. I'll create another one so you see what I mean. Okay, so this is two different gradients but with two different effects. Let me show you that. Okay, so you see that now. So this is the same gradient but with two different effects. This is what I'm getting and this is not good. Okay, this is what I'm getting and it's not good. This is what I need. This is what the gradient is and this is what it is here. In this particular design, this is what it is. In this particular design, this is what it is. It's not this. Okay, so when making your gradients, this is the things you need to avoid. You see, you make your gradients, prepare your gradients from here, but when you are done, you go over to the gradient tool here. You see this two arrow here. This is where you expand or decrease what angle the gradient have. Okay, so when we select this, we select on gradient tool. You see the difference between this. It is from the inside, but this other one is from the outside. I'll show you how that works. So if peradventure we want this to be like this other one, we select this gradient tool and we move it from the inside. It's becoming more closely and more nicely too. But when you do it too much, it becomes a problem. You see that? It is now a problem. This is not what I want. This is a bad gradient usage. You extend your gradient from the outside to make it look nicely, or if possible, between the edges of your design. Okay, you can do that from the top to the down, you can do that from the bottom to the top, you can do that from the left to the right, you can do that from any angle, but make sure it is not too close like this. If you do it like this, it simply means this is not seamless. People can easily detect the angle through which your gradient started and where your gradient ends, and that will make a very bad design for you. That's why I say create your gradient palette first before designing, so you start applying it look nicely on them. So this is not what I want, this is what I want. I think that solved the problem of gradient too. So when creating a gradient, to make sure you expand the length of the gradient, okay, to be nicely fitted in people's eye. You know, this is easy for people to view, and this makes it very subtle and not too harsh, but this is too harsh for people's eyes. Okay, don't make your design have a point by which people can notice that this angle actually is the point this thing falls out. Like for instance, this design, see this side is yellow and this side is red. It makes it very easy for people to detect the angle that the gradient starts and where the gradient ends, and that's not what we want. So we are done with the gradient tool. The error we find that that's the summary for the gradient tool and how to create the gradient palette. So if you want more tutorial on that, I have it on my YouTube channel. You can watch the full episode of the gradient tool and how I did that. And also for the text tool. Now I have issues with you guys, most of the designs I have. So for instance, you are making a design, for CatersGraphix. So I say making a design for CatersGraphix. Let me zoom closely so we can reduce the size of this. Making a design for CatersGraphix. Look at the problem most of you are having in this text tool. You will not hold your keyboard. You won't hold your keyboard. You won't touch anything in your keyboard, and you want it to work as Photoshop. This is not Photoshop. Photoshop, you don't need to hold your keyboard to make things work. Okay? For instance, in Photoshop, you want to resize the text. I have this text design here. You might not see it clearly because I'm using it for my website, and I made it to be okay. Very good. We have this color now. In Photoshop, you don't need to hold your keyboard. If you just resize, automatically it resizes with the same aspect ratio without, even if you move up and down. See my keyboard my mouse is, I'm moving up and down with my mouse, but it's not affecting the ratio of the design. Okay, you see it, I move left and right, it's still the same thing, but it's just getting bigger. But look at the problem we have in Illustrator. Illustrator, as you move up and down, see what happens? See what happens? This is just the problem we have. And you move left and right, you see what happens? So most of you have issues with this. Let me show you another problem you people go and put yourself into, and you don't know how to come out of it. Even in Photoshop, the same problem you fall into, you don't know how to come out of it. Now, look at this text now. We have this text here. You will go to this angle. Look at this text tool angle, the character panel. You go to this angle. You go in this place they use to resize text. Okay, this is not the text format yet. Okay, this is not a text. Let's create a text. Let's create a text. Kata. Okay. I have to be fast because I promised that we're not going to waste time on this particular one. So I expanded this. Now you go to your text tool. Most of you go here and you apply something. Let me select all. Okay, let me zoom out. You know where I'm talking about, so let me zoom out so you see everything that is happening. So you go to this place and you make this size probably 20 or something of such nature. Let me increase it a little. Okay, not this one actually, not this one. So we go to auto. Look at the problem we are having. This particular one we used for expanding. Control X. Okay, so we make this thing, let me say we make it like 100. 100. Okay, the text size we make this 200. See what happens to the text. Control X or Control Z. You see what happens to the text? Because we are expanding this text size to 200. So let me make it 100 as it is before percent. 100%, it will take it back to what it was 100% here. Okay, in this tool, look at the tool, see it very well. See this one now, this one particularly, the horizontally scaling tool. It should be always on 100 to give you the main size of that text. Okay, it should be always on 100. So let's say for instance we make it 300. You see how it will scale this text? This doesn't look good to the eyes. Okay, it doesn't look good to the eyes. Now you still go to the vertical scaling tool, you make it 300. You see what happens? This doesn't look good to the eyes. See what happened to our text? Does this look good to you? No. Does it look very good to you? This is not a very good typography usage. Okay, this is the problem I'm talking about. So this is how you fall into the problem in Photoshop. And the problem in Photoshop is that if you fall into this problem, you can't come out until you go back and change it here. So make sure that your horizontal is 100 and your vertical is also 100. Okay, that fixes the problem for Photoshop. So let's get back to Illustrator and we conclude this tutorial. So in Illustrator, it doesn't have that one automatically. It's when you do it and that's what you have for that particular text. And this is it. So when you expand it, this is what you feel. It doesn't work like Photoshop, like you expand it and you don't have any issues without holding the keyboard. Okay, actually in Photoshop, if you hold the shift key and expand, it will start misbehaving just like Illustrator does. You see it? I'm holding the shift key in my keyboard. That's when it starts misbehaving. You see it? You see what we are having here? This is because I held the shift key. But in Illustrator, you must hold the shift key to maintain the same aspect ratio. I'm holding the shift key now. You see, it's still maintaining the same aspect ratio. But if I leave the shift key, see what happens. You see it? This is not what we want. But in holding the shift key, go up and down, it's still maintaining the same aspect ratio. It doesn't matter. What it only does is just to increase the size of this text, which is something you can still achieve by selecting the text tool and going to the size of this text and increasing it to either 20 or whatever size you want. You see? So this is just it about the text tool. Very simple. Very simple. So next thing you want to learn is how to make your text bolder or smaller. So when you select the text, you go to this angle, you're going to find the font style. You select and you can make it bolder. Let me show you what's going on. You can make it bolder or thicker. Okay, see the size, see the size, see the size. For this, for newbies, you guys that have been there, old papas, you already know what I'm talking about. So now in Illustrator, if you are doing this, hold your shift key in your keyboard. Look at the shift key, it's at the bottom left of your keyboard. Hold your shift, S-H-I-F-T, that's the spelling of shift. Hold your shift key. I'm sounding this as a note of warning. I don't want to see a bad design that have a bad text font. I hate it. I hate it so much. So when you hold the shift, it will still maintain the same size. Okay, still maintain the same aspect ratio while you expand without going to start increasing the size here. Okay, but in Photoshop, if you hold the shift key, it will mess it around, but if you leave it, it will now maintain the same aspect ratio. Okay, but sometimes that doesn't mean you can't leave this thing to still expand it or decrease it. There are some fonts that we need you to do it if you want to. So let's take, for instance, we are working with this font. Where is this font? There's one slim font that I want to use to show you guys an instance now. So this font, we are working this font, and I want this font to be like other normal font. I want it to be very slim, like this. This is a slim font. What I have to do, I still select, and now I don't have to hold my shift. I have to just expand it and make it become bold like every other font. You see, it's now normal. Look at what it is before, then look at what it is now. Let me remove and expand. So these two fonts is not the same thing. It's two different font styles. Okay, now you can also hold, let's duplicate this. If you also hold without expanding, you should be careful so you don't overuse your privilege. Okay, be careful and creative. Don't just start expanding things anyhow and make them look very stupid. Okay, this is creative. This bold font is not as slim as this. So that is it for our text tool and our gradient tool. I hope you understand that this is taking more than 12 minutes now to teach. That's because I want to break it down to the list so you guys understand very well what I am talking about. Okay, thank you all and enjoy the rest of your day. Once again, this is Manuel Sankata signing out from CatersGraphix.